Okay, so this is a classic way that I'm using Claude, and there's so many things to unpack here. Hopefully, I'm using my phone as a hotspot. I'm sitting in a parking lot in front of my son's school. He gets out of school at 3, and I've got time to kill, but I don't feel like going and sitting in a Starbucks. So I'm like, what am I going to do for an hour and a half? All right, here's the thing. So if you know a little bit about my Sapling project, it's a free platform that you can sign up for. You can use video to promote your fundraising cause because video is much more engaging than pictures and text and that kind of stuff. Anyway, I don't have any customers. And because I'm using it it's just more of an experiment for me to start something using AI vibe coding and so on. But I am a terrible marketing person. I don't understand how to get the word out. If I did want to promote this and see about getting a customer or that kind of thing, I shouldn't say that I have a customer. I'm using it for my son's school to raise money. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, this is how people I think are using AI today, and this is a great way to use AI going forward to help. So I took my problem to AI. I said, hey, here's the deal. I'm using a tool online to do, it's called Instantly. You can see here, it's my platform that lets me email nonprofits and suggest that hey, use my platform instead of some of the competitors. I'm getting diddly squat for responses. It's just email outreach is hard. Switching costs are hard. So I just said, hey, listen, Gemini, use your deep research tool and help me figure this out. And I basically described what I'm doing today, and it tells me why your cold email strategy is a dead end. Now, something to keep in mind about AI is going to follow your lead, and many times it's going to just agree with what you're saying. You want it to challenge your mindset. So, what I didn't put in here, and I should have in my prompt, was I didn't ask it to be critical. So it, of course, took my lead and said, yeah, email is a terrible strategy, which it makes a very compelling case for. If you read through its analysis, its nonprofits are very relationship-based and so on. But anyway, it goes through here and it creates a lot of content, which is something that it's good at. And sometimes you're like, is it just a bunch of content? So I'm always about, listen, I love how cool AI is, but how is it really going to help me? It gave me this idea, and it said, here's your competitive analysis. This is why ClickBid's great, or ClickBid. This is why Sapling's great. Why the other competitors, you can get an advantage on them. And I'm like, that's great. It all sounds good. Breaks down my pricing. And then it says, here's your strategy. I won't go into reading all of this because it's a lot, but it basically said, hey, listen, you're using AI to generate video, which is pretty cool. What you should do is take that to the next level and use it as a marketing tool. Let people paste in the email from their last marketing appeal and pitch, and let AI generate a video for you that you could use in your next pitch. Instead of making it an email, make it a video email. And so I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty smart. It talks a lot about that. And then when you would ask for an email address, have a gate in here so it's not just wide open for everybody to use, and then try to get them to pivot from that to an account at Sapling. But don't block them from using the video if they want it. Let them have it, and then you could definitely post this on your GoFundMe page or your other pages. But did you know that Sapling is an awesome opportunity? So how do I then move people into Sapling? All right, that's a great tool. Awesome. It gave me all this content, which I'm really happy for. Now, my head explodes because I'm like, how am I going to build this? That's really smart. And I get really excited at first, and then I'm going to have to spend 2 days building this thing. And then, because it's not just about, it sounds good. Yeah, okay, I'm going to let people generate an AI video. It's going to use Google's VO system. Am I worried about price? Yeah, I probably shouldn't let this thing run indefinitely. It's only going to be as good as its ability to convert people into a Sapling account. Okay, now I got to build the tools to I got to build a page. I got to build the tool. I got to then try to capture the email, then try to get them into a Sapling account with as little amount of friction as possible. Ugh. Okay, so then so what am I going to do? I take the solution, so I copy this. So what I did was I copied it and then went over to Visual Studio, and then I said, okay, this is my code base for Sapling. And I said, all right, I need a feature for a new page that is going to be used as a marketing tool. I was given the marketing strategy below. I wrote this manually, which isn't a lot. And that's something I'm really blown away by in AI, is that it can do a lot with very little user input. Now, you have to be careful that it doesn't just create some random weird thing, but it's getting so much better at sticking within the rails. But anyway, I did that, and then I pasted in just the Google Gemini response that it gave me. And then I set it loose, and it said, I'll help you create this free AI audit video tool as a lead magnet. Let me ask some clarifying questions. This is new to Claude Code, which I think is pretty sweet. Where should this marketing page be hosted? And I'm going to say, yeah, main domain path. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to type use.sapling.mobi/audit. That's what I want. Okay, so simple pimple. All right, next question. Delivery flow. When should the video be generated and delivered? Immediately in the browser, email when ready. Ooh, I like that. Let's do the hybrid though. Let's show progress, but also let them enter an email to get notified when it's done. The nice thing about that is that gives us a reason to capture the person's email address and make it valid. I could make it like only email you when it's ready, then they have to put in a valid email. All right, well, let's just do hybrid. All right, where should we handle the email collection and lead data? A new leads, yeah, let's do a leads table, database table. Let's just do new. Conversion flow. When a user clicks post your update and converts, what should happen? Full sign-up flow, quick campaign creation, just capture intent. Mark is interested, send follow-up. So let's do the full sign-up. Yeah, let's do that. Actually, I'm going to type something. Full sign-up, but use information already captured. The AI should try and autofill sign-up form fields with email content that was provided. All right, so in this case, I am using some of my human intelligence to say, okay, this is what I think it should do. All right, and then got all my responses, so I hit submit, and now it's going to perambulate. So now it's going to create a to-do list. Now I'm in plan mode in Claude, so that way it's not actually going to start cranking out code. Yeah, so I want to be careful. You can give it the ability to just start grinding out stuff, which I've done, and that's how a lot of this was built. But for now, I just want it to tell me what it thinks. So it's basically reading different lines of code in my platform. So it's really getting busy as a developer. So at this point, it's doing what I would be doing with my developer hat on, and coming up with an actual plan that will then get to building. It takes a while, so I'm actually trying to just like sandbag. But the difference is that, okay, so there's this kind of AI where I'm getting right down into the weeds of code writing. Then there are tools you can use that have AI built into them. So like Instantly is an email campaign tool where you set up a bunch of email accounts. You warm them up, and then what it does is it actually then uses them to send out marketing emails. And then it's going to there's some AI, let's see. Yeah, Instantly Accelerator uses AI to generate email content. So a lot of times people think that they're using AI inside of another tool, but the problem is that this can start to add up in cost. The way that these AI platforms are monetizing their services is by giving you credits. Like you can see here, I have 2,400 credits. How do I continue to use the AI? Just keep adding credits. And you just it's nickel and dime, and it can get really expensive, especially if you're a startup. Yeah, what was my point? Other than trying to delay getting to my Claude plan, I want to show that to you. I think something I was talking about earlier to some folks was that AI is being generated in two different places. It's being generated by software providers in services like Instantly, HubSpot, Salesforce, Microsoft Copilot, GitHub. They're bringing AI into those, but then products are also being built within the large language model owners themselves. Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini. These are tools that are being built inside of their platform so that when you sign up for a Claude, for instance, you can actually get tools like marketing tools. Right now, they're pretty rudimentary. If I wanted to send out email using Claude, that would be difficult. I'd have to come up with maybe some third parties to plug in, like an email client. But I think what we're seeing and what we're going to continue to see is that AI is tools like, or companies like OpenAI, in order to justify their valuations, they're going to have to build a complete one and done platform that you will use on a regular basis. I think that's why we have OpenAI buying the services of Johnny Ives and so on, because they're planning to make you live inside of their platforms without using outside third parties. All right, I got done. Now, let's take a look. There's a lot of text here. Claude Code is a terminal-based system, so you don't get any real user interfaces other than some color coding and so on, but it is really awesome. What did it come up with? Okay, create a product-led growth marketing page at audit that converts fundraising emails, blah, blah, blah. All right, so database structure. So it's really laying this out. Again, this is my PRD, my product plan. So it's going to create a leads table, and so it's going to add these fields. It's going to create a directory structure inside of the audit folder that's going to build and contain. So it is really good. It hasn't done anything yet other than build the plan, but as a product manager, this is something I really enjoy seeing because I know exactly what it's going to do. And unlike, I mean, it's incredible. There's a lot of places to go about that. I don't want to. Anyway, front end landing page, it's going to create a hero section, form fields, design. One thing it didn't do very well was that I wanted to take design from my marketing site, not my product actual platform site. So I am going to update it and tell it to look at a different page for its design. But it's going to use some gradient stuff. This is what's currently in the platform now. Validation, so that's great. It's going to audit the page and it's going to, for all the information you put in, and then validate and make sure it's ready to go. Then it's going to build the actual content creation. So it's going to work with Claude. And then it's going to, call the VO app, which is good. It's working with Claude to analyze the email and text, generate an actual prompt. What it's also going to do is make sure that it generates appropriate. So that way it doesn't generate something that somebody, because just like when Sora came out, people were putting in some pretty inappropriate stuff and Sora was just doing it. And so you want to be careful that it's not doing that. I want to protect copyright material. So that way I can tell Claude to stay on those guardrails when you build your prompts for VO. Then it's going to make up to a 30-second animated video, and I'm going to make it so that it's animated, not photorealistic, because again, I want to maintain that I want to maintain correctness when it comes to generating content that somebody might say, I want it to look like a famous person. I want to avoid that because I think that's very dangerous. But anyway, so video processing pipeline, it's going to check the status, email notifications, and now the phase 5 conversion. So I want to actually get people to convert to Sapling and start using it. That's the whole point. And so it's going to use AI to try and pre-fill some of this information. And then in the sign-up form, it's going to try to build that in. And now it has to actually modify the sign-up form so it can capture this information that's being pushed into it. So it's going to update. Obviously, you can see here, it's going to put in some of that information and pass it on. And then do some security. This is something that's really exciting about AI, is that it actually is starting to think more about security. Rate limiting, 1 video per email per 24 hours. Secure token system for download links. Input sanitization for all text fields, and then it didn't put in here content sanitizing to make it sure it's appropriate, CSRF protection, and so on. Now, implementation order, this is awesome. This is how it's going to build it, in which order, files that it's going to create, files that it's going to modify. And the last multi-million-dollar question, which could be, is do you want to just get going and just let it rip? If I say yes to this, it's going to do everything. I'm going to get these pages built. I'm going to get these pages modified. It's going to handle all this. And then I can ask it to build an MD file of everything it did to verify, so that I can verify it. That is absolutely fascinating. This would take a developer, it would take a day or two to build something like this, and it's going to do it while I'm sitting here in my car waiting to pick up my son. It's going to build this. So I just think this is absolutely fascinating and scary. Really scary, because who am I? No, I'm not the world's most talented developer, and yet here I can get this kind of information. Now, I'm not going to go through this tutorial of actually building out the content, but I will say that I am when I get plugged into a battery or a power supply and I get more time. But this is impressive. This is impressive, and this is where AI is headed. So yeah, it's got me a little bit freaked out, but because I want to be in charge of my code base, I want to be in charge of my product development in future, but this is a lot of interpretation and clearly the right direction that I was going when I set out to build this with just very little input into the AI. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Well, there you go.